This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is
the one that everybody wants, me.
It's going to WrestleMania. Claymore!
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. This is my iron. You're going to acknowledge me.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, hello, whatever time it is with you and wherever you are. Thank you for downloading this SmackDown review as part of the WWE podcast. And it's my absolute pleasure to have you listening along once again. This is my 9th show, week 9. And thank you so much to everyone who continues to download and listen to the review. For anyone who hasn't done so yet, please come follow me on Twitter. I am at Amanda SD Pod. That's at Amanda SD Pod. So guys, summer seems to be officially at an end here in the UK. We are currently being battered by Storm Lily. So apologies if you can hear what sounds like a shower in the background. Once again, we are summertime in England. Before you know it, shops will be full of Christmas stuff. For anyone interested, we had a predictable start to the Premier League this past week. And I think the least said about it, the better, certainly for me as a Spurs fan. So, the week itself, Raw was pretty good again this week, I think. I thought the Sheamus versus Pete Dunne match was awesome. An absolute banger, to coin a phrase. I loved the way that the Wyatt Six interrupted the Ivy vs Maxine match. Good to see Nikki Cross get some action. I really like how the comms team over on Raw were framing it, saying, instead of saying, ooh, it's a spooky witch, they were actually saying, oh, that's Nikki Cross, she thinks she's a spooky witch or something, which is much more believable, if believable is the right word in the context of wrestling. But you guys know what I mean. I think there's only so much of the hocus pocus stuff that we can put up with. So that's a nice angle on it. And then the CM Punk segment ending with the news of the strap match was also pretty cool. As you know, I'm a huge mark for CM Punk. Absolutely love him. Really looking forward to that match between him and Drew in Berlin. The women's tag champs, Alba Fyre and Isla Dawn, retained. And then we saw the Judgment Day and the Terror Twins segment, which was also brilliant. I thought it was a strong show. Really enjoying Raw at the moment as well. And did you guys see the interview this week with Paul Heyman? It looked like he was at a con or something. Maybe it was the fanatics thing that they kept pushing on SmackDown and Raw, but the interview was pretty good. He was being asked about the bloodline Roman situation, and pretty much he was saying that there are a bunch more people in the family that both Solo and Roman could have in their back pocket to bring in, rather than just the faces that we know currently. So that's pretty exciting. So it looks like the bloodline story is just going to run and run and run and run, with more people added and many more angles, which is great. I'm there for that, so I think that's really exciting. And in other news, before we start the review, the puppy that's not mine has now gone home, so at least we don't have that distraction this week. So without further ado, let's get to the reason that you're all here, and that is to review the SmackDown that aired on August 23rd from Washington DC. Pleased to report that obviously, as we all like to have a little weekly update on my American geographical knowledge, obviously I know Washington. I've watched a bunch of TV programs, dramas and stuff all centered around Washington. Haven't been there, definitely on my list of places that I want to go. So we start again this week in a similar way to how we did last week, actually, with a recap of the clash between Solo and Roman from last week's show. We were shown again initially Roman putting up a good fight, but ultimately getting overwhelmed by the new bloodline. And again, we see Roman getting put through the announce table, which is always pretty shocking to see. I don't know when we last saw Roman being so overwhelmed by opponents, and I guess that's the point here of breaking new ground with this new ferocious bloodline. So as we go to the live shots, we see Solo arrive, and he has the whole of the new bloodline with him, which doesn't bode well. And they do look really kick-ass. They've got a really good look, and they're very menacing and mean-looking. We get a reminder that tonight the bloodline have to defend their tag titles against the Street Profits. We then go to the ring. We get the big intro for Grayson Waller and Austin Theory. They're already in the ring, and it's all set up for the Waller effect. Crowd are really booing, and I'm also booing internally. I'm not a fan of these talk show style segments. And they usually end up in a lame way to start the next feud or continue one. But obviously that might just be me, but they're not really my cup of tea. Waller, straight off the bat, says his guest tonight likes to make things about himself and brings out Cody, who gets a great reaction. Even Corey mentions the size of the pop for Cody. Waller interrupts Cody's usual entrance and says that enough is enough and this is an interview. And he even interrupts the "what do you want to talk about" bit. Waller says that even on his show, it's all about Cody. He says he knows how selfish Cody is and how many times have his friends Randy and Co been beat up because of him. He knows how much he loves his WWE title. And Cody says, let's talk about KO, who he acknowledges is his opponent at Bash in Berlin. He says if he put a list of superstars up, KO would be capable or may actually have already beaten them all. He says that KO has been fighting the bloodline from since before Cody even came back to WWE, and that he hasn't stopped fighting them. Cody says he acknowledges that he wouldn't be champion if it wasn't for KO, but he has never used KO. He turns it on Waller and asks him if he can say the same thing. He accuses Waller of using Theory. Cody asks if Theory is ever going to do something about it being used by Waller. We then get Waller showing a compilation of KO turning on people. This included Sami Zayn, John Cena, Chris Jericho, Kofi Kingston, Sami again. And to be fair, that evidence is overwhelming. We all know KO's history and what kind of guy he is. But when you see it all put together, it definitely makes KO look like a wrong'un. Cue KO's music, and out he comes. He says Cody can see from the video that pretty much all of those guys had it coming, with the exception of Kofi, who he apologises to. He says the relationship he has with Cody is different. They've always been close, so that's not going to happen. And he then says that everyone knows how this part is going to go. He's going to get him into the ring with Cody, beat up Waller and Theory. Someone will make a tag match for later in the show, so let's just skip to it. He brings out Nick Aldis, or Oblivion the Gladiator, as we like to know him, and asks him to make to the match. And the crowd are definitely up for it. Nick makes the match, and KO says he doesn't want to miss out on kicking their ass quickly, so has he got time to jump in the ring and beat up Waller and Theory as well now? And Nick Aldis says yes, as long as you make it quick. So that happens. Segment ends with KO and Cody in the ring. KO accidentally hitting Cody, and Waller and Theory backing off. I actually like this segment. I have to, go back on my words from earlier. I like this segment, and although it kind of followed the usual formula for the talk show segment bits, it was different. And the fact that KO called out what we were expecting and had already spoken to Nick to make the match was a great touch. So I really liked it. It was kind of like they know what we're all thinking, and then they just turned it round. So I liked it. It was a good start to the show tonight. Good fun. We then see LA Knight, who is up next defending his US title against Escobar. As we come back from the break, LA Knight makes his entrance to a massive pop. As always, he is still so over. And Corey tells us that this is Knight's first title defence, which I hadn't actually realised it was his first, I guess because we see him a lot on the TV. So out comes Escobar with the whole of Legado del Fantasma to a very muted reaction. Not even boos really, just sounded a bit meh. So they're obviously not really that over. We just start off with the introductions, but before they can get finished from behind, we get Berto and Angel Garza pulling Knight from the ring, and they start to beat him down. They eventually throw him into the ring, and the ref chucks them both straight out of the ringside area, which is great. Elektra Lopez then jumps into the ring and starts chopping off to the ref, who promptly chucks her out too. That's great. At least it's a fair fight now. Which evens the odds quite nicely. LA Knight looks like he's okay to start the match, if not quite beat up. The bell rings and Escobar immediately rushes him in the corner. Knight manages to duck out of the way and goes for a quick cover, almost nicking a win. I actually thought that was how that was going to end, but didn't. We get a big knee from Escobar, followed by a weird move I'm not familiar with. I'm not sure if it was a proper move or whether it was a bit of a botch, but it forces a 2 count. We go for a break. As we come back from the break, Knight has got the upper hand, which we all know annoys me massively, and WWE have started doing it again now all the time, so that's annoying. But Knight has got the upper hand. We don't know how that happened, and is battering Escobar into the commentary desk. Knight starts to clear the desk, stopping Escobar from getting back in the ring. Escobar drops Knight and goes to the barricade with double knees onto the announce desk. Escobar still pushing his Escobar C thing, but the crowd are letting him know that he sucks instead of getting on board with that. He gets Knight back into the ring and hits a splash from the top rope into a cover for 2. Escobar is still in charge, but Knight catches him with an elbow, followed by a huge clothesline. And it looks like Knight might be turning things around. Another clothesline and a neck breaker to Escobar. And then Knight hits the side effect on Escobar and into a cover, a very close cover for 2. Escobar looks for the Phantom Driver, but gets a super kick instead. Both men up onto the top rope. Knight once again gets the upper hand and drops a massive elbow from the top, followed by a BFT and straight into the cover for the 3 count, and Knight retains. So this was a good match between these two. The beginning was nicely worked and a great way to introduce some jeopardy, with Knight getting a pre-bell beatdown and then the whole of Legado del Fantasma being sent to the back before we started. Meant that although we probably thought we knew there was no way of Knight losing his title here, we had those moments of just believing that he might do, which I think is probably what we all want. Corey then tells us that there will be a line of superstars waiting to get a shot at the US title, 2 of them being Andrade and Carmelo Hayes, and we get a reminder of their brilliant match last week. We then get a pre-recorded promo from Hayes, which doesn't seem to be in a barber shop this time, but I do see a lot of hair product in the background. He asks Andrade why he is angry. Is it because he lost? Well, duh. He says, the truth is you are only as good as your last match, and in the last match he wasn't as good as him. Then he says Andrade should be thanking him. I can't think for a second that he will be, but because he is currently 2-1 and that's the only thing keeping the lights on in his career. Andrade then comes in, and as the camera pans out, we see that he actually is in a barbershop. I'm going to need someone with their finger more on the pulse than me to sit me down and explain what the deal is here with barbershops. I don't know if this is just his gimmick. I don't get it. So if anyone wants to reach out on Twitter at Amanda SD Pod to school me on this, I don't get it. And I can't get past it. Anyway, Andrade comes in and says what Hayes did after the match was disrespectful, and they will fight again next week. I suspect we will see Hayes with the win again, leaving a decider for maybe Bash in Berlin or maybe SmackDown after. Either way, these two have been having great matches, so bring it on, I say. Let them fight forever. They're doing really good. We then have a 6-woman tag match. We have Alba Fire, Isla Dawn and Blair Davenport versus Naomi, Bianca Belair, and Jade Cargill. Before the match starts, though, we go backstage and we see Elektra Lopez, Berto and Angel having a Barney backstage about what's just happened to Escobar and LA Knight. Escobar comes along and is furious, telling Angel that nothing he says will make up for what just happens. And then we get Apollo and Baron Corbin putting in an appearance, mocking their loss. Escobar says he won't tolerate the disrespect and is off to see Nick Aldis to sort out a match for next week. So we shall see whether that turns out to be one-on-one or whether it turns out to be a tag team match. But either way, we've got that to look forward to, in inverted commas. Let's see what that turns out like. The team, then we go down to the ring and we get the team of Alba, Isla and Blair already in the ring, and we get the entrances of Jade, Naomi and Bianca. They each have their separate theme songs that they come into, and once again, good pops for the faces. As they make their way to the ring, Corey tells us that at Bash in Berlin, Jade and Bianca will face Alba and Isla for the tag team titles. That's good. Jade and Bianca both look to be in USA outfits, so I guess they're pushing the angle that Jade and Bianca are Team USA and Isla and Alba are Scottish, so maybe they're looking for some home support. I'm not sure how that will play out in Berlin, though, as that's neither USA or Scotland. But I guess I see where they've done that. Later on in the match, I also noticed that Naomi's outfit had USA on it as well. So maybe it was like a tribute to the Olympic team or something. I don't know. Anyway, quite irrelevant. So Isla, Dawn and Bianca kick things off with Dawn getting the early offence in. But Bianca quickly turns things around with a moonsault off the ropes. Belair is in charge. She takes it to the outside with a dive over the top, flattening Isla Dawn as we go to the break. As we come back, we have Bianca still in charge, but with Davenport now. Davenport gets the upper hand, holding Bianca's hair in order for her to make the tag to Isla. Bianca gets subjected to some quick tags by the 3 heels and is getting completely overwhelmed in the corner. Davenport, now legal, hits a stomp and goes for a cover for 2. Heels staying firmly in charge here. We still didn't see Jade or Naomi in the match yet at all. Fire and Dawn with some real double teaming on Bianca. But Bianca manages to eventually fight out of the submission hold, but fails to make a tag and is still in. Finally, Belair makes the tag, and we get to see Jade in the ring, who goes to work clearing out and demonstrating some nice looking moves. She gets the tag to Naomi, who goes off the top, and it's now her turn to get some serious beatdown on the heel team. She goes for the cover, but it's broken up. Fire and Dawn beating down on Jade on the outside. Bianca from the top takes them all out, and back in the ring, Blair goes for a quick cover on Naomi. Gets the 2, but Naomi kicks out. Naomi gets a springboard moonsault and gets the cover on Blair for the win. A nice match. They're doing a good job of building up the tag team champs, along with their efforts on Raw this week. They're starting to be made to look strong, but also smart. So in advance of their title defense in Berlin next week, it's no surprise that Naomi took the pin from Blair. So no one who is involved in the title match looks either strong or weak. This is shaping up nicely for Bash. Personally, I hope that they leave their titles on the champs, maybe start the split between Jade and Bianca, maybe it's too soon for that, but I'm surprisingly finding this program very enjoyable, and particularly what they're doing with Isla Dawn and Alba Fire. So yeah, that's a good, strong women's tag team division at the moment. Up next, we have Solo addressing Roman Reigns and the future. At this point, I don't think Roman is here, or at least we didn't get told yet that he is here. We now have the next match, which is the tag team title match, Bloodline versus Street Profits. Jacob Fatu still in his boot, surely not defending wearing that. Solo asked Washington DC to acknowledge him, and as always, they decline. He says he has a lot to talk about tonight, and they should try and keep it down. I thought this was weird. He addressed this a bit like a meeting agenda. So number 1 on the agenda, number 2 on the agenda, number 3 on the agenda. Just thought that was a bit weird. I'm sure they did it for a reason, but a bit weird. Anyway, so he says they should try and keep it down. He's got a lot to talk about. He says the original tribal chief is done, and the crowd start chanting OTC. He says it doesn't matter who has the title, so whether Cody or KO wins, he's next, and he's going to bring it back to the family and back to him. He then says there's something wrong with the tag titles and asks Jacob Fatu to step up. He goes to take the title from him, but then instructs him to give it straight to Tonga Loa. So I guess that answers the question, not defending in the boot. Jacob Fatu hugs him and does the whole deranged, I love you, Solo, I acknowledge you, Solo thing, which is a little over the top in my opinion, but I guess fits his character. And the point of that was that Jacob Fatu gets a promotion to a position that I thought he already had, the enforcer or the bodyguard of Solo, but apparently not. So everyone in the Bloodline's, really happy about that. The Street Profits music hits and they come out with B-Fab on the mic saying they don't care who the bodyguard is or who the tag team is. They have business tonight and that Solo can get back to his family matters later. Montez starts mocking the Bloodline, saying, is this version 870312 or whatever he said, which is actually pretty funny. We go to a break, and as we come back, before we go to the match, we have LA Knight with Byron backstage. Knight says he's now home, says something which I don't completely understand about the coast and spending time here, but I think basically says he feels like it's his home. Now he's successfully defended his title. He is going to go to Berlin to defend against anyone. He basically offers up an open challenge. So guys, who do we think? Andrade? Carmelo Hayes? Is it Escobar? Surely not. Maybe someone from left field? Maybe Logan? Maybe someone that we haven't even thought of. I don't know what the situation with Brock is. Would Brock go for the US title? I don't know, but that's a massive curveball, very interesting. So at the next PLE, Bash in Berlin, we have an open challenge for the US title. Can't wait to see who steps up tonight. Good stuff. Now we go back to the ring, and the tag team match is ready to go. We've got Dawkins and Tonga Loa kicking things off. Tonga Loa in charge off the bat, and then Tama Tonga comes into the action, continues the dominance, but Dawkins starts to make a comeback. Ford comes into the ring, demonstrating as per some really nice moves, gets a 2 count. A couple of big clotheslines for another 2 count, but Tama Tonga fights back, putting the Tongans back in overall charge, and a 2 count for Tonga Loa. Montez gets a big kick, and a tag follows some great double team moves, sky high from Dawkins and Ford from the top with a massive splash, and only Tama Tonga stops Street Profits getting the 3 count and the win. Tama Tonga launches forward over the top and then poleaxes him onto his head, which looked gnarly on the outside as we go for a break. And as we come back, Ford is trying to fight back, hitting a DDT on Tonga Loa, but is unable to capitalise. Ford and Tama Tonga both in off the double tag. Dawkins is in charge with a massive kick and a super close 2 count. Dawkins hits the silencer and tags forward, but the pin is broken up again at the last minute. Dawkins on the outside takes out Tama, Tonga and Tonga Loa, and now we get Solo sticking his nose in at ringside, but forward from the top to the outside takes out both, and then Jacob Fatu with a super kick to each of the Profits, and it looks like Solo's got the ref distracted at this point. Tama Tonga hits a DDT on Dawkins, and thanks to Solo and Jacob Fatu, the Bloodline retain the tag titles. So again, here, I don't think anyone expected the Profits to win, but they certainly put a good account of themselves in, and there were moments where you thought maybe actually this could happen. A good match. I think the Street Profits with B-Fab are looking pretty good. I'm excited to think what might develop with them in this new look and this new formation of the group. There's then some afters as Solo instructs the Bloodline to finish off the Profits, but DIY's music hits and they come to the aid of the Profits. Just as it looks like DIY are going to kick Solo's ass, Jacob Fatu comes back like a cockroach in the apocalypse and takes out DIY. The commentary team ask, is this the end for the OTC? Roman Reigns, will we ever see him again? I think we all know the answer to that. We absolutely will. We now go to Cody backstage, who is coming out with KO. And KO wants to make sure that Cody believes him, that this tonight isn't a setup, and he isn't that guy anymore. Cody says he believes him and takes him at his word. Could this be the KO turn? Possibly. As we get back from the break, we are backstage with Byron, who tells us that both the Profits and DIY are in the medical room. B-Fab comes out and says they're all fine, it's just a precautionary measure, as Indy and Candice also go to the medical room. She says they are just, well, she used the P word, but I'm not sure if I'm allowed to use the P word on the podcast, so I'm going to go with annoyed. We then go to a wicked vignette from Michin, saying that she's been told, you're too ugly, you're too fat, you don't have the look to be patient, to make it. You have to be nice, you have to be patient, you have to be less ambitious. She says everyone has tried to limit her, and they failed. She asks Nia if she thinks she will be the one. She says in Berlin she's going to slaughter her. This is awesome. I love how dangerous they are making Michin feel. I also think she said it was a street fight, and that would be awesome. That would be great. We then go backstage where we see Pretty Deadly. I don't know if I've mentioned it, but I love them. And Tiffy Time, trying to super glue Nia's crown back together. Nia says Michin made a big mistake touching her crown, and that next week she will get the beating of a lifetime. I hope that Tiffany cashes in on Nia soon. Doesn't feel like it fits with her character to be so submissive and snivelly to Nia, and I am hoping that it's just a ploy to cash in and they don't completely trash the Tiffany character. We then get Chelsea and Piper sniping round the corner about Nia, saying how obvious it is that Tiffy's going to cash in, and that's obviously the only reason that they're friends, etc., etc. Nia comes around the corner and says this week isn't the week to mess with her. And then they confirm it is a street fight, and it's next week on SmackDown, not Berlin. So that's great. Looking forward to that one. Now we get the main event, which is Cody and KO versus Waller and Theory. We get started with Cody and Waller in the ring, and a quick tag to KO with another tag to Cody, followed by a cover for 2. KO comes back in and levels Waller with a massive punch, followed by some huge chops. Theory comes in and a big kick to KO. And as we come back from the break, KO is coming off the top with one of his massive splashes to Waller. KO makes the tag to Cody, who gets the better of Waller straight away, He hits a big disaster kick. Theory involved on the outside. Waller hits a flatliner, but Cody kicks out. Cody looks to be in trouble, but tries to fight back, looking for a tag, but Theory remaining in charge. Cody hits his Cody cutter from nowhere, and Theory stops the tag and gets a headlock on Cody. Waller gets tagged back in. Cody throws Waller and Theory out and gets the tag to KO, who takes out Waller and Theory on the outside. KO with a cannonball on Waller and a swanton for the cover, which Theory breaks up. Cody hits crossroads on Theory while KO goes for the stunner but is countered, but then manages to get a pop-up powerbomb and KO gets the win. Several times through this match we got the tease that somebody missed somebody else's tag or somebody got distracted and wasn't there when the tag was to be made, etc., etc. But ultimately there was no KO turn, and once again, guys, shockingly, my predictions are a bust. This is news to no one. The show ends this week with KO and Cody celebrating together in the ring. And no spectacular turn, no shonky ending, nothing at all. All in all, another great show this week. Loving the build to the Bash in Berlin, with the bloodline stuff running alongside as well. And also the story that's being built between Tiffany Nia and Michin. The will she, won't she cash in? Are they really friends? Also the character development that they're doing with Michin. I think at the moment we've got ourselves a really strong product here. Really enjoying SmackDown. Looking forward to Bash in Berlin very much. And looking forward to next week's show, which I guess is probably coming from Berlin, which puts it in a much more friendly time zone for me, selfishly. So that's great news. So that just about does it for this week's show. Once again, and as always, thank you for having me in your ears. Thank you for all your comments and interactions in the week. I really do appreciate it. Give me a follow. I am at Amanda SD Pod. I hope you will have a great week. And until next time, please remember, be kind.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.